We've always had 16 minutes.
Okay, trustees, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are open. Go for it.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular meetings of the East Hampton Town Trustees for November 13, 2023. I'd like to open with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Marlene, could you do a roll call, please?
John Aldridge. Here. Francis Bach.
Here.
David Cavalletta.
Here.
Len Dollinger.
Here.
Tim Garnell. Jim Grimes.
Yes.
Susan McGraw-Keefer. Mike Martinson. Bill Taylor.
Okay, we're going to start off with the public hearing regarding whether to extend the current dock prohibition into permanent prohibition of 3 Mile Harbor where docks are not prohibited, and a change in trustee policy on docks. Allison, could you read the notice, please?
I sure can. Okay, it says, please be advised, the trustees of the freeholders and commonality of the town of East Hampton will hold a public hearing on November 13th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. at Town Hall to hear public comments regarding the extension of the prohibition on the construction of new docks in the currently unprohibited portion of 3 Mile Harbor. The trustees will also hear public comments on potential policy changes regarding docks and annual agreements. It was dated October 24th, 2023.
Okay, so we're here tonight to hear what the public has to say about these policy changes. We're only here to listen tonight. We'll take all your comments into consideration when we have our discussion on which direction we're going to go with these. Okay, so I'd like to start with Cindy Crane.
You need me to say my name, or since you've said it?
Please, yeah.
Okay, it's Cindy Crane. I'll just read and then I can give this to you. I have a dock on Accabonac Harbor that I inherited from a previous owner. It took a few years to get the 4-decade-old dock and the trustees on the same page with regards to its design and location, and I'm very grateful that that has now been resolved. I'm here to add to the discussion about whether to require the seasonal removing and reinstalling of dock parts twice a year, before and after winter. I'm in favor of removing things that are easily removed, such as things that move or float, but not in favor of removing parts that are strong and fixed and very difficult to remove. Tonight you were attempting to define what a piling is, and so I'm not sure if my dock uses posts or pilings. I will say posts for the ease of the discussion. My dock is comprised of a landward ramp on a hinge, a catwalk fixed with 8 wooden posts, a seaward ramp that uses 4 hinges, and a float bolted around 4 wooden posts. The posts vary from 4x4 to 6x6. The float and ramps can be easily removed and reinstalled. The 12 posts are not at all easily removed or reinstalled. As part of our negotiation on my dock, it had to be relocated a few feet eastward. First Coastal did the construction and had to bring in a special barge to drive the posts into the harbor bottom. It was disruptive to the ecosystem on the harbor bottom and cost thousands of dollars. I was happy to pay for that big project once. However, I can't afford to do that level of construction twice a year, every year. I doubt anyone can or would be willing to. If you were to require that posts and pilings needed to be seasonally removed, the machinery and labor required to install and remove them is very specialized and has very limited availability, which would make homeowner compliance very challenging, even if people were willing to pay for it. I'm not sure how many dock construction barges are out there, but imagine if every dock owner needed to use the barge twice a year. It seems like it would be logistically impossible. It already takes months to get on First Coastal schedule, for instance, even for routine maintenance. So if the trustees decide that posts and pilings are to be seasonally removed, what I expect would happen is that homeowners would resort to using cheaper materials that are able to be moved without needing expensive specialized equipment. And then the quality of dock construction would suffer, and likely docks would not be as sound. They would uproot in big summer storms, which is dangerous for both people and the environment. After my dock was relocated and rebuilt, Jim Grimes inspected it and then was subsequently very complimentary about the quality of construction at the September 25th, 2023 trustee meeting. So dock soundness seems to be important to the trustees. Tonight, I'm also including a report that accompanied my 2022 dock agreement application. As part of the process of legalizing the dock, I had the environmental consulting firm Nelson, Pope, and Voorhees study the environmental impact of my dock. They found that a thriving marine ecosystem had established under and around my catwalk, and that it shouldn't be disturbed. They write, there is a healthy and vigorous population of salt marsh grasses in and around the existing catwalk. The act of physically removing the structure will create immediate and lasting negative impacts to this delicate ecosystem. And they also say, the elevated catwalk remains in place year-round to prevent unnecessary persistent disturbance to the marsh, which would otherwise occur from the seasonal removal and installation of these elevated structures. The report discusses how valuable the shoreline plant species under my dock are for erosion and pollution control, and as food and shelter for small marine animals. Removing and reinstalling 12 wooden posts within this ecosystem twice a year would certainly permanently destroy it. And according to Nelson Pope Voorhees, would also facilitate the establishment of non-native species competitors. So far, I haven't had any issues with leaving the wooden posts in the water, even in 2021 when Acquabonic froze over. I did have an issue with that year with the freeze with the float, which I had left in the water because of our ongoing negotiations that year. The float was pushed by ice and snapped the cheap metal poles it used at the time. So my opinion is for now to perhaps require the removal of things that are easily removed, such as things that float or move, but let posts, pilings, and other fixed things with minimum surface volume stay in place so that docks can remain as high quality as possible. Should this become an issue in future years, then of course the trustees could revisit the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, Matt, do we have anyone on the phones?
You have 0 calls on the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Brickman?
Hi, I'm Peter Brickman. I live at 5 South Pond Road. I've been at that location for 50 years. We use the harbor and enjoy everything in the harbor, from boating, sailing, kayaking, fishing, clamming, and most recently we became oyster farmers off the dock, which obviously helps the environment. We take great pride in 3 Mile Harbor and have always wanted to ensure that it's protected. I applaud the trustees for sharing our concerns and concerns about safety and everything else. Just a few comments. We've always, followed the letter of the law and paid our fees on time, afraid that we would lose our permits and things like that. And we've been doing that for 50 years. Early on, the documentation that we received was pretty vague. I believe we pay per linear foot on the dock. As far as removing the dock, it's a very expensive task, and there's been fewer and fewer services that come into the harbor that are allowed to do it. And also it can cause damage to the floating parts and the gangway and things like that. One of the alternatives that I'd like to present to the board is the use of bubbler systems. The commercial docks use them fairly successfully on their docks, their infrastructure, and also the boats that overwinter in their facilities. It's a tried and true system. And it does prevent ice ups, which can cause most of the damage, whether it's pilings that rise or floating areas that move and such like that. And obviously the final thing that I just wanted to say is in this climate change environment. I was here 50 years ago. I actually skated on 3 Mile Harbor. I walked from our house over to Halsey's, and we used to see sailboats, ice sailing on the harbor and stuff. Last year, we barely had a freeze, and it's been, fewer and fewer and fewer. So, if the ice and the damage that it gets caused, sadly, it's not as much of an issue as it once was. So just my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You don't want to talk? Okay.
Well, I would have said what Peter said.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pete Jacob?
I know, the door.
Good evening. Thanks for having this session today. Pete Jacob. We live on Oyster Shores Road. There's 3 of us there with docs. The other 2 couldn't make it. They asked me to pass along their comments. They are mostly about what has already been said. We agree with every word that Ms. Crane said, very well said. Our experience about taking out the pilings or the posts each year matches with what she said. We used to use a cheaper metal piling or post, easier to come out twice a year, and that was our experience. That's what we did do. When they were replaced, it was required that we use the Brazilian hardwood, which we do. And we're informed by our contractors that that is a big job to take that out each year, put it back in. Very violent process. We have 7 of them. Just by observation, I'm no marine life expert, but you can see the damage it does coming in and out twice a year. So let me second everything that Ms. Crane said and thank her for her comments. Brickman, one of our neighbors, also agree with all of his points. Just like to add our voice to those. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Pete. Thank you.
Okay, Jenny Land.
Hi, Jenny Landy. I actually came to speak about the pricing on the dock structure, but it's dawned on me that I have a fixed dock on 3 Mile Harbor, and it's probably been there for 50 years. And it's only occurring to me sitting here right now that when you refer to pilings, he might be referring to that, which I can't fathom. So in the spirit of addressing that, it's a fixed dock with, 8, 10, 12 pilings that has been there for many, many, many decades that I maintain. I think if it were required to remove it and replace it, it would clearly not be viable. Cindy, who did great research, and I have not, I agree with her, the marine life, and it would be a burden that couldn't be absorbed to remove a fixed dock. There's not one floating element to it. And I really came to address the linear charging for linear feet versus square feet, that I hope you stick with the linear foot, which is what you have been doing, primarily because that's how marina charge at boat slips. It's one measurement. My dock is square, and then there is another piece. And if you start charging in elements other than linear foot, it will require some room for error, some subjectivity and confusion. So I would hope that you would stick with what I would consider industry standards as being linear feet. And I just hope that fixed pilings will never be required to be removed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Matt, is there anybody on the phone?
0 callers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess that you guys want to talk about leaving this open for any amount of time?
We should. Till the next meeting.
2 weeks?
If any written correspondence, emails, whatever.
Okay, so we'll leave the hearing open for 2 weeks for written comments.
27.
The afternoon of the 27th, or I guess it could be until the meeting time. So, yeah, meeting time on the 27th. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
There's no Q&A, or did I miss that?
No, we were just hearing concerns tonight. If you would like to make a comment, you're welcome to.
Do you mind if I just
No,
say
not at all.
questions?
Your name?
My name is Bill Destrophy. I live on Waterhole Road.
How do you spell your last name?
D as in David. Sorry, D as in David, ESSOFFY.
No, I'm sorry, what's your first name?
First name, William, Bill. And I live at 176 and 172 Waterhole Road on Hot Creek. So the question I have is, what is the goal, or what are we looking at as the position here? Are we trying to preserve the environment, or are we trying to increase revenue, or is there a lot of illegal structures that have been constructed that you're looking to? The way I read this is that there seems to be a lot of not applied for or legal structures in the three areas that are in concern.
Okay.
So what is the goal?
This wasn't meant to be a conversation. It's
Okay.
more about
I
your
apologize
concerns,
then.
but I'm happy to answer that question. Nobody's taken a look at the dock situation in a couple of decades? So we know that there are illegal docks out there. We don't know how many, where they are. We decided to take an inventory, take a look at the current policies, see if they are really prevalent to today's standards. And pretty much that's it. We're not looking for additional revenue. We're just trying to get a handle on what's going on.
All right. So from here, people make comments, then you come back with a...
Yeah, we're not gonna, we'll be talking about this, when are we planning to vote? On the 11th of December?
December 11th.
December 11th, we plan to vote on whatever we decide to do.
Okay.
All right?
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
This is the Harvard closest
Okay.
by the town. They have all of their permits from DC and Army Corps. I think that they're good for a house. It's a permit, but also to exempt the town from having.
All right, moving on to new business. We have a request from Matt Jedlicka of L.K. McLean Associates, PC, on behalf of the town of East Hampton for a permit to replace the existing corrugated metal pipe arch at the Pussy's Pond, Accabonac Harbor culvert, and stabilize the head walls of the bridge. Something you want to talk about this?
Sure.
Jim?
Hey guys, if anybody wants to look at these plans, we got these last month. I spoke to the engineering firm. Presently, they have DEC, Army Corps, and all their permits, other than ours are in place. The scope of this project is not replacing those head walls and the bridge over the drain there at Pussy's Pond. It really comes down to doing some, what I would say, temporary repairs, adding some riprap stone and stuff on either side to sort of shore up those concrete walls, which if you have ever gotten out of your car and looked at, they are leaning slightly. It's a lot of paperwork for a project that is not all that extensive. What the applicant, which is the town of East Hampton, by the way, is looking for is a permit from our board and to be exempted from paying for the permit as an interagency consideration.
Could you talk to them about what they're going to do?
Yes.
Other than stabilize that? How are they gonna replace the pipe. They're gonna put a smaller pipe in or older pipe, larger pipe.
Yeah, they're not taking this whole thing apart. In fact, actually, John, I think, take a look, I think the second page is a draft narrative on the description of the project.
So is there a fee we have to pay?
No, there's a fee that we would waive for the town.
Okay. Thanks, Chair. It's kind of the blueprints for it. Seems like a good project to.
Well, in terms of its impact and scope, I didn't really see it as an issue.
You want to make a recommendation?
I would make a recommendation, or I would like to make a motion that we approve a permit, and a second to that motion would be to waive our typical fee for the permit.
Do they have other permits
They
in
have,
place?
they have Army Corps, they have DEC, they have everything else they have in place.
This looks good. I mean, I'll second it for that. Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, next we have a request from the Village of North Haven to have the trustees include them in the 2023 Sag Harbor Water Quality Initiative. Hasn't that already passed?
Yeah, so I can chime in on this one, trustees. In 2022, we included the Village of North Haven's partnership in their $26,300 contribution. Again, us as trustees, acting as the escrowee for these initiatives. Coming into this year, there was some changeover in the treasurer or the office of the Village of North Haven, and it was inadvertently left out that they would be like to do this again for 2023. So while we already passed the resolution for the Sag Harbor Water Quality Initiative for 2023, we'd like to now, on the back end, add in North Haven, who again was inadvertently left off for this year. So this is just a rider to that agreement, adding on North Haven so that they can use our escrow to be able to continue to be included in this initiative. So pretty straightforward.
Did we receive a payment from them for 2023?
That's a good question for Arlene.
We have to agree to receive it first, so they're just
Okay,
waiting.
so they're paying up on the back end.
Yes.
Correct. They had somebody that passed away in their office and it just got looked over.
I'd make a motion, we add the rider.
Yeah, second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, we don't- Next, we have the 2023 to 24 Georgia dredging bid package. I think that's yours again, Jim?
Yeah, Arlene, you included this in everybody's
Yes, I
package
included a
tonight.
copy of
What
it.
Arlene's done is she's basically just changed the dates from the 2021 dredging, because as you remember last year, we did not do the dredging. Last year was the year Orsted needed access to the beach. So essentially, it's the same proposal. It aligns with the DEC permit we presently have, and we'd like to get this posted and advertised for the dates described there. So
Is it- The procedure for this, I'm just curious. Do we just post it and wait for anybody to respond as
Yes.
opposed to reaching out to?
no, we post it. I think in the past, Arlene may have actually called past bidders just to remind them. But by law, we have to post it for any member of the public or contractor that shows an interest in this.
This is the same we've done in the past.
It's the same thing. We just need a motion and approval for Arlene in the office to advertise this.
So are we actually doing the, that small entrance into the
That
cove?
small entrance, we'll look at that. I think we should include it in the bid documents, that's one of those things we can actually, we have permits for it. It's not anything that brings us any money. When they let the pond, we can have a look at that area and see whether it makes sense to go over there. It very well may not.
Can they get there with the machinery that they
Yes,
use?
no, when the pond's out, they can get over there. Question is there enough blockage or is there any blockage right now to impede the water flow to make it worthwhile to go over there?
How often have we excavated that
We've
historically?
done it, the first 2 years we did it, I think actually we've done it every year. We've done it every year. But quite honestly, I think the last time we did it, it really was, I don't want to describe it as a fool's errand. But there really wasn't much to take out of there.
But we can also include it in a bid and then just not do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
so
so-
that's what I mean. In terms of a financial cost or income to us, it's almost non-existent, but I think we should keep it in there. It's part of our 10-year permit. And I wouldn't want to let the pond recognize that we should do it and then find ourselves having a conversation with a contractor after the fact. This way, everybody sees the same thing going in the door.
Refresh my memory, there was a sort of a drone survey taken of the depths, I seem to recall.
Yeah.
And that was sort of a baseline for what's there and what we would be.
You know, John, that changes so much. That drone survey that was done a number of years ago is probably irrelevant at this point. It was done the first year that we did dredging after that long lapse. It wasn't done subsequent to that. Because
That was something we contracted?
that was something that we contracted, and honestly, it's one of those things, yes, we skipped a year last year. There's a lot of sand there, but we know where it is. We know where it is, and I think we know the lay of the land there. I don't think there's anything we're doing there that the drone survey would either help or enhance.
Yeah.
You think that it would be useful to do some kind of survey periodically, maybe?
Yeah. And we may have to do that, John, because when we get towards the end of this 10-year permit, we're going to have to go back. Now, the positive thing that we've done as a condition of that permit is, along with Friends of Georgia, we do have a management plan for Georgia that incorporates Gobler's testing. It incorporates the algae harvester. It incorporates the goals of the Friends of Georgia and the updating of septic systems, our work with vegetative buffers, so that we bolster any case in the future for continuing the process here. I mean, we are fortunate that since we've gotten back into the dredging, since the Friends organized that algae harvester, and since we've been doing the pond letting the way we have, the water quality numbers of Georgia Pond have consistently improved every year since 2015. So
it might be useful for that next.
it might be, but I think, yeah, but you know what? I think as we get closer to that, John, we're going to start that dialogue with DEC. I'm not sure that it makes sense to unilaterally, let's put it this way. If you suggest something that is an expense, and it's not cheap to do that, if you suggest something, you can bet that it's going to be a requirement.
Is it not cheap to do it? I mean,
It's not terribly cheap to do it.
Yeah.
because I just wonder how our costs coming down on drone work.
I think that might very well, but this is to satisfy what our curiosity.
Well, if we think it might be useful in re-upping the DC permit management plan, you know, to demonstrate what's there after 10 years, you know?
Yeah, but we're not at 10 years.
No,
We're
no,
not far
that's what
though.
I'm-
I mean,
think we got
this
4
was
more years
issued
on our
in
contract.
2016.
Yeah.
So,
No, it was.
We're gonna start the
the permit.
dialogue with the DEC
Yeah.
fairly, you probably give yourself 2 years.
right, so we're getting close to
So
having to
let's think
start.
about doing it next year.
Mm.
And the good news, guys, is we're all gonna be here
Mm.
for that.
Well, it's important because if you have a change, they could easily lose track.
Well, most of us will be.
No, I think we should just put it, I'll make a motion to pass it as written.
Okay,
I'll second it.
In favor?
thank you.
Okay.
Arlene, you'll get that.
I'll get that to the Atlantic Star.
Thank you. Is it time to get it in tomorrow?
We laid it out that it'll go to the following week, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Nicole Mahar of Nature Conservancy requesting a letter of support from the trustees for funding a salt marsh restoration proposal to NOAA for the transformational habitat restoration and coastline resilience grants.
I'd make a motion.
Is this for Acabonic?
This is for, the grant proposal would be for Acabonic marsh restoration work and restoration work on several other marshes on Long Island.
Yeah, all of them are good, so.
So Jim made a
Don't
motion.
require federal matching money. They do require projects that have other investments that have been made in them, so Acabonic fits that second requirement.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me. Moving right through this. Trustee,
Oh, can I interrupt? I'm so sorry. Who's drafting the letter?
I can talk to Francis about that. It should
Okay.
come from Francis. Nicole gave me some suggested language.
okay.
Okay,
We
thank
can
you.
vote tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'm always happy to review that if need be as well.
Okay.
Okay.
It needs to be received by them by noon on Wednesday, so.
Plenty of time.
Okay. All right, trustee comments to ZBA regarding house rebuilds on Sammy's Beach and Harborview Lane.
I think in both these cases, the trustees requested additional time to comment to the ZBA because we hadn't been noticed.
Right.
at the meeting. So that I felt was, and some trustees had expressed private thoughts about this, neither of which are here now. But I thought if anybody wanted to discuss this.
Well, this is the property, correct? It's 3 houses that they're knocking down to build a house.
Well, that's one of them.
That's one of them. Okay, and the other is which?
Harborview Lane.
Lance Sutter's tear down
Like
replay.
Sledge Island down there?
That one's looking for like almost 100% relief on some of their,
Well, here,
That's a very constrained.
yeah.
yeah.
Here's the thing that we run into here. As much as our heartstrings may reach out to the dilemma the ZBA faces, our involvement here is as adjacent property owners. Okay, so if the project as proposed has no impact on our beach, you gotta kind of ask, or if there's no opportunities for something that is going to impact our beach, you're going to ask, what's our position here and why would we have a position?
That's That would be the nature of any discussion.
Yeah.
Clearly, any impact on trustee properties that we hold in trust for the public.
I think it was
I think
wise.
that can be a matter of opinion, however.
Yes, no, I get that, but
I mean, personally, I think that if we do respond, it could be, please protect the public interest that we represent.
well, the ZBA, listen, the ZBA, that is their thing. And we've had this where people have come to our meeting and they want a bully pulpit to rehear something that perhaps has already been heard at a public hearing. You know what? I don't think that's a good situation for us to promote because it potentially undermines the ZBA's role here. And I do think asking for the record to be held open because we weren't noticed on it was a wise move. But second to that, I think we have to respond some way. And exactly, John, what you said about we only ask that the ZBA and the board consider possible impacts to our beaches and our waterways. End of story.
How about you draft those letters?
It has to be in by
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Okay.
I'll do the Nicole Moore letter, you do those.
It's a fair deal.
You got it all down.
No, I
Make
think
a motion to that effect.
no, because I don't think, because we've done this, I hate to say it, historically, when we all got, Francis and I got on the board, we had gotten a history of asking for the record to be held open on hearings, and then letting the time run out and never having made a comment.
Yeah, I think we
And
know
even
it.
if we didn't have a comment, I think it's rude to not
Yeah, I agree.
to not at least qualify that holdout.
I agree.
In your office tomorrow, Chris? I am. See.
All right, and I encourage anybody as an individual with their concerns to go and make their comments just like anybody else. All right. Request to close the harborside access to the southern terminus of Georgia Could Drive.
So I brought this up at a Nature Preserve Committee meeting on Thursday and talked to the board there about it, showed them some photos, and they all wanted to go down and check it out themselves and to see if the access on the bay side was functional and that could be an option. And then, then it would be okay to close off the harbor side.
Yeah, but I don't think the,
We're gonna give an opinion next month.
Okay.
I don't think the, I think the access from the bay side can be a little difficult. There's a lot of
That's what some members brought
rocks
up.
and
It's a little bit
cement
steeper
blocks
there,
and-
yeah.
You know, there's almost a groin down there.
Right.
I don't think we should close this. I think it's used a lot by fishing, It might need some maintenance.
Well, I think the
Where's this
issue though
photo
is
come
that
from?
because of the nature of the beach and the high tides are causing trucks and cars, vehicles.
You know, there's a huge pile of dredge spoil sand 100 feet away from that.
Are these the old ones?
I
No,
mean,
that's a new one.
Oh.
yeah.
I don't know where it came from.
Oh, that's the old one.
Yeah,
There's a lot of beach.
yeah.
That seems to be getting used quite a bit.
I know where it came from too.
But
On the back.
that's the spot
Last
down there
point,
that
I
was
had
used as
pretty
a dredge spoil site 40 years ago or something like that. There's still like an acre of piled up sand down there.
Back behind the access, yeah.
But I mean, getting rid of any, like holes and stuff shouldn't be that big a deal.
Well, to require filling,
Yeah.
I don't know where that would come from, other than the next time they dredge. And I don't know how easy it's gonna be, the county say, just fill up that hole over there and then move your pipes to wherever you're gonna, I think it's easier said than done, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, there's a lot of piled up material right in the area. it's all dumped there.
Sure, I think that might be easier said than done to say, well, we'll
The
just go
last
in there
time,
with a
the last
payload.
time they put the spoil on that side, we actually went and asked them to move that material farther to the
No,
west,
and I
which they
think-
did.
I think the next time they put material on the bayside, we want it to go all the way down the end. They wound up, the last time they put the material all the way up to, except for like the last 3 or 4 houses. This does not seem like a huge,
Who actually requested this to be
This was
closed?
a member of the public.
Oh, a member of the public?
Yeah.
So this is one person's,
There's also, she cited recommendation in the sub-watershed management plan was put together by DEP, I believe, many years ago, about that access, that
you go down there a lot of times and you see 10 people fishing up on the beach.
I mean, a lot of this too is not on our property. I mean, the access is upland and we don't own that access.
It's on nature preserve.
right.
It's a nature preserve piece, and I believe there's a management plan for that piece. So Nature Preserve Committee has a lot of say here.
Yeah.
Hey, that Sutter application, where is that?
So we're gonna discuss, we're gonna
What's the
give a
other
decision
You had
next.
the one in Sydney's Beach and
Next
there was
month,
another.
so we can revisit it.
Lane?
What was the initial feeling felt from that?
I guess it was kind of mixed. They wanted to go down and see for themselves and, drive their trucks down there on that access on the bay side to see if that is a viable alternative.
Yep.
All right. Were we going to talk about this last one tonight?
I think,
Moorings?
what's this administrative mooring fee?
That was the question that came up last week.
How much?
Yeah.
We talked about it,
Yeah.
and we just didn't really have a firm idea of how much we thought it should be. Unless this is something we should leave for
Yeah, I think we should table this one for the moment. Because this was really a discussion between, 2, 3 people, and the rest of the board has no clue. So. Clearwater Beach Property Owners Association, this is under committee reports. Request to renew their dredging permit with the same terms and conditions as last year's permit.
I did look over the application. It makes sense. The only thing that had happened in the interim is their DEC permit had expired. I had spoken to one of the members over there a week or so ago and said, hey, listen, I don't see an issue. They do this every year. They do the dredging about the same time, that we would likely be willing to approve the permit. At that time, they did not have their DEC permits. The renewal on this, I've got it, that's where I was going. As of today, I got the notice, their permits were reinstated November 6th. So if anybody would like to make a motion to renew their dredging permit, I saw no issues.
I did notice that in some communication I saw, they said that their weir was
They have
empty
used
now.
up, remember one of the conditions of their permits, and this is going way, way back, was that they store no more, I think the number might have been 600 yards on site. Now, what happened is over several years of dredging, they had accumulated considerably more than 600 yards. I have not been down there to look at it. Going what they said, they pretty much have emptied that area where they had been storing sand. So.
You know what they've been doing with this then?
Well, they've been selling it to their neighbors. You know, what's happened is they finally have gotten it that, them paying us to them paying us for the sand probably wasn't that great an expense. The last two times they've done it, they've actually paid somebody to haul the sand to one of our beaches and spread the sand on there. I'm gonna suspect that maybe they've recognized the lack of economy in doing that and have maybe gone back to what was suggested to them when Rick was on the board and we met with them down there, is that, you do have a market within your neighborhood for the material that you excavate, and you can get more than $7.50 a yard for it. And I think that's what they've done, because there's several houses down there over the last year that have either repaired, rebuilt stone revetments, all with permits. And I'm assuming that's where the sand for that work came from.
So along the Clearwater.
Yeah.
Replenishing dunes and stuff?
No, replacing sand above a revetment or a bulkhead. You don't really have, there's very few properties down there I would describe as having a dune.
Yeah, there's nothing left.
I'll make a motion, we renew that permit.
Second.
All in favor? All right, that brings us down to administrative payment of the bills. Before I get into that, Matt, anybody on the phone lines?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody approved that last one?
I'm sorry?
Everybody approved that last one?
Yes. Payment of the bills. East End excavation, $1,000 for the opening of Georgia Gagut. East Hampton Marina, $1,188.70 to winterize and service the 3 Mile Harbor boat. $853.72 to winterize and service the spare boat. $113.70 for gas. Optimum, $150.24. Riverhead Building Supply, $26.35 for pump out boat. East Hampton Star, $31.24. Van Dyke and Hand, $495 for accounting. Johnny Vella Shrink Wrap and Delivery, $1,900 for all 3 boats, I believe. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that's what we have.
I'd like to make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we have minutes from October 13th and October 25th. Anybody have a chance to go through them?
Yes, I did. We made some comments on both. And change. Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Is that a rate for a shrink wrap of a boat, like 600 plus bucks?
It's cheaper. It's actually cheaper than we pay.
Sounds good.
It's cheaper than what?
That $600 is cheaper than what we paid. So I'm actually liking that number.
That's for 3 boats and then delivery of the one.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything they want to bring up? I just want to, the kayak racks. I noticed what people are starting to do is put stand-up paddle boards underneath the racks in the grass that we're trying to protect. So they're not on the racks, so they don't have
Purpose of the
permits.
racks in the first place.
Right. So I'm not sure how we address that.
Well, nobody's supposed to be keeping anything unless it's on the rack, and you're not giving permit to stand up paddle boards. My understanding.
We did what I did. I put some stickers on them and we waited a while and they didn't take them away, so Marine Patrol took them.
So you've run across that also? Yeah.
I think we have to get back to, though, formalizing among ourselves how we're gonna keep track of this.
Right.
David did keep track of Mile Hill, but nobody else followed up on the other places. I put some stickers on early in the season on Gerard, and I didn't really go back there.
But our stickers say that you need a permit to use the rack. Technically, they're not using the racks.
But they're putting the things in vegetation.
Right, but that's something different.
I think there's signs that say no storage of boats on vegetation, though, at the entrance to every place that kayak racks exist.
I think it might be in the town code too.
Should we update it, get a second sticker?
Well, no, you just can't, you gotta take the stand up for it.
Well, yeah, but if they don't.
I mean,
It might be a bad idea for next
we could
season.
make up new signs and put them.
If you don't have a permit, you're not allowed to leave your boat in.
If it's up in the
Could we
vegetation.
put storage for them down there?
Sometimes, no, actually, it's not.
Why?
Because it's in the vegetation.
That was in November 1st to get them out by.
I
15?
think that the town board
But where are we going?
some leeway and
You have to,
Kind of max out the space.
you were kind of maxed
boards
out.
on the beach.
I don't know if the way they're constructed, you could just store them differently.
Technically, I don't know
I think we
where.
could try to do it more streamlined.
I'm surprised you would give a paddle boards some small, not.
Yeah, so I mean,
Do like a one.
That's a pretty laid back.
what about 6 rails
I
and
mean, they lock them up.
I mean, it only needs to be this wide.
have them standing upside down?
They go through like the leash, I guess, like little,
It's probably,
oh, they lock it around a tree.
probably not a winter problem.
Yeah, but it'll be spring before you know it.
All right, so we'll
What about
keep
the
this in
sled?
mind for
We're
next
not having a
season.
problem with that.
I know.
Skis, put them on top.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.